The first thing I noticed when I turned off the highway was a silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that presses on your ears like someone's cupping their hands over them, waiting to whisper bad news. The sunset smeared red across the desert like a warning flare, and for a second I wondered if I'd taken the wrong exit. But no, this was my road, my ranch, my fresh start. And then I saw the lights. Blue-white beams swept across the dirt like searchlights in a prison yard. Figures in black tactical gear moved in clean formations around my fence line, their boots crunching the dry earth in a rhythm too coordinated to be an accident. One of them held a rifle. Another raised binoculars toward me as if I'd just stumbled into a military operation. I slowed the truck, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel. What the hell? The ranch was supposed to be deserted, abandoned, even. I bought it for pennies on the dollar because the last owner vanished 3 years ago. Even the realtor didn't know why. But now? Now it looked like the staging ground for a private war. One of the men stepped forward, hand up, palm flat. The universal sign for stop or get shot. A black patch on his vest caught the headlights. 3 letters. Not police. Not military. The Homeowners Association. For a ranch 20 miles from the nearest paved road. My pulse hit in new gear. Who arms an HOA? Why were they guarding my property? And why did they look like they were waiting for me? I rolled down the window just enough that my voice could slip out, but not enough for anyone to slip a barrel in. Evening, I said, trying for casual, but landing somewhere between tense and please don't open fire. This is my place. I think there's been a mistake. The man in front didn't make mistakes. I could tell. He was the kind of person who ate mistakes for breakfast and asked for seconds. His face stayed stone still as he lowered his hand and walked toward my truck. Name, he barked. Elliot Kane. He glanced back at another guard, who tapped something into a tablet the size of a dinner plate. After a moment, the guard nodded. Here's the one. Let him through. Let him through. To my own damn ranch. The stone-faced man stepped aside. Drive slow. I didn't move. Do you mind telling me why an HOA has I don't know, strike team on my property? I'm pretty sure the brochure didn't mention armed supervision. Stone-face didn't blink. We'll brief you inside. Secure the perimeter. The others moved instantly, splitting into pays, weapons angled down but definitely present. The air felt charged, humming with the kind of tension that precedes trouble. Real trouble, not the usual HOA nonsense like grass height violations. I pulled forward, gravel spitting under my tires. My heart thumped a heavy, steady beat. Every instinct screamed at me to turn the truck around and pretend I'd never seen any of this. But I'd spent everything I had on this place. I didn't have anywhere else to go. The ranch house came into view, its frame outlined by temporary floodlights set up around the porch. The building was old, but sturdy, a relic from the 1920s with thick beams and a tin roof that still caught the sun like metal armor. I'd fallen in love with it the moment I saw the listing. Now, though, it looked like a crime scene waiting for a body. A guard opened my truck door before I could. Not aggressively, just with that practiced, efficient firmness of someone who thinks your personal space is optional. Mr. Kane, come with me. I stepped out, forcing my legs to cooperate. Inside the house, the air smelled of dust and old dreams. My boxes were still stacked in the corner where I'd left them a week ago. I'd only been away long enough to finalize paperwork and tie up loose ends in the city. And yet, somehow, in that time, my ranch had become a militarized zone. Stoneface stood in the living room, helmet off. He looked even more severe without it. Short-cropped gray hair, jaw set like concrete. I'm Captain Rowe, he said. Desert Crest Community Oversight Committee. That sounds like the long way of saying HOA. It is the HOA, Rowe confirmed. Just extended. Extended, I repeated, to rifles. He didn't bother to justify it. Instead, he gestured toward a chair. Sit. I sat today. Rowe crossed his arms. Before you purchased this property, you signed a document acknowledging you were entering a controlled community. Controlled. I laughed, a little louder than I meant to. Sir, with all respect, there's nothing here. The nearest gas station is a 30-minute drive. You can't even see another house from here. That is by design, Rose said. My skin prickled. What does that mean? We monitor this land carefully. There have been incidents. Incidents involving what? Rose paused. Not a dramatic pause, not a stage one, just a kind that happens when your brain is flipping through a deck of answers and discarding each card. Finally, wildlife. I raise an eyebrow. You don't send men with automatic rifles to deal with coyotes. These aren't coyotes. A cold knot settled in my stomach. Then what? Before I could finish, a loud crack echoed outside. Not a gunshot. Something more like a branch splitting under enormous pressure. Rose's head snapped toward the window. Positions, he barked. The guards moved instantly, forming a perimeter inside the house, weapons trained outward. I stood frozen. What was that? Rose didn't answer. He just checked the safety on his rifle, shouldered it, and said, "You're about to see why we're here." Another crack, closer this time. Then the floodlights outside flickered, once, twice, and went dark. Pitch-black desert swallowed the house in an instant. Rose exhaled, slow and controlled. "Stay behind me," he ordered. I swallowed hard. Should I be worried? His eyes didn't leave the window. Yes. Something snarled outside, and the sound wasn't like any animal I'd ever heard. Not even close. The house held its breath. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the air felt frozen, suspended halfway between anticipation and dread. Outside, something scraped against the gravel. Slow, deliberate. The sound of weight being tested. Measured. Rose gestured to the guard near the window. "Thermals," he whispered. They raised compact monoculars to the glass. A second later, one hissed under his breath. Nothing. Nothing. But we all heard it. We all felt it. Another sound, this time the unmistakable thump of something heavy landing on the wooden porch. The boards groaned, complaining under the pressure. A guard tapped the captain's shoulder. Still no heat signature. Rose's jaw tightened, then switched to sound triangulation. It's close. Close. Too close. Something slid across the porch, like claws dragging slowly across old varnish. My stomach clenched. What exactly am I hearing? I whispered. Rose didn't look at me. "Stay down." That was not an answer. The guard nearest the door had his rifle up, barrel steady. His hands didn't shake, but his breathing did, just a little, just enough for me to notice. These weren't amateurs. These weren't weekend warriors. These were men trained to walk into fire without flinching. And even they were scared. The porch creaked again, twice, shifting weight. Then the faintest click, like something tapping wood to test its strength. My voice came out barely audible. Do I want to know what that is? Rose's stare was fixed forward. No. The floodlights outside flickered back to life in a violent surge. Every guard flinched. Helmets glowed in the sudden whitewash. And the porch was empty. My pulse hammered in my ears. But we heard. It's fast. Rose cut in. Don't break formation. As if on cue, the lights flickered again, fading, dimming, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. The generator must have been struggling, or something was interfering with it. A guard tapped his earpiece. "Control, this is Alpha 4. We've got power instability on grid 13. Requesting diagnostic." Only static replied. Another guard swore softly. "It's jamming us." I turned sharply. What is it? Rose finally turned his eyes on me, and in them I saw the truth. Whatever roamed outside shouldn't exist. Not here. Not anywhere. Before he could speak, the window beside us rattled violently. Just once, but the force of it punched through the silence like a fist through glass. Dust shook loose from the rafters. The guard nearest the window steadied his rifle. Movement left side. Everyone shifted, including me, because looking still felt safer than not looking. A shadow slipped along the ground just beyond the reach of the floodlights. Wrong shape, wrong speed. It crawled and flowed at the same time, like liquid poured over bones. "Target at 9 o'clock, a guard whispered. "Thermals." Rose asked. "No heat." "None." Something that moved like an animal, hunted like an animal, but didn't have a temperature? My throat tightened. How is that possible? Rose's eyes didn't move from a window. It's been here longer than any of us. It knows this land, and it learns. Learns. That one word chilled me more than the dark. The shadow darted forward. Contact, yelled a guard. Gunfire erupted. Short, controlled bursts. Muzzle flashes stuttered in the dark like lightning. But the bullets hit nothing. The thing was already gone. A second later, the opposite side of the house shook with a violent, bone-jarring thud, as if something massive had hurled itself against the wall. The guards pivoted instantly. The lights flickered again. For a moment, the ranch was plunged into complete blackness. And in that blackness, there was breathing. Not human, not animal. Something between. A low, raking exhale that vibrated through my spine. The light snapped back on. Every guard scanned the room, rifles trembling inches from their shoulders. "Row," one whispered. "It got closer. It's toying with us." "Hold positions." Row's voice was steel. Its pattern hasn't changed in years. It tests, then retreats. It won't breach unless provoked. And the gunfire didn't provoke it. I hissed. Row finally glanced at me. That was warning fire. Trust me, if we'd hit it, you'd know. Before I could ask what that meant, a deep rumble rolled across the yard. Far, then near, then directly behind the house. Like thunder with a purpose. The guard froze. Row sucked in a breath. "That's new." One guard turned, panic breaking his voice. "Row, what does that mean?" He didn't answer. A long silence followed. Then a scream ripped through the night. Not from inside, from outside. High, human, cut short. Every blood vessel in my body turned to ice. Row's face hardened. "We're going out." "What?" I choked. "Out there, with that thing." He stepped toward the door and racked his rifle. "One of our men is down. We don't leave our own." 3 guards moved without hesitation. The rest stayed behind, 2 near me, rifles ready. Row paused at the threshold, turning back to the indoor unit. "Protect the civilian. If it breaches, aim for mass, not precision. It doesn't care where you hit, but it hates being slowed." "Hates?" I whispered. "You make it sound." Alive? Aware? Resentful? Row didn't wait for my question. He and the others vanished into the night, swallowed instantly by the uneven pulse of the failing floodlights. The house felt emptier without them. Quieter. Too quiet. I crouched near the wall, trying to keep my breathing steady. Minutes passed. Or seconds. Time didn't behave normally when fear bent it out of shape. Then, distant gunfire. Short bursts. A scream. A roar that didn't belong to anything nature ever stamped her name on. The 2 guards in the house tightened formation. One muttered, "They aren't stopping it." The other replied, "They never do. They just slow it down." "Slow what down?" I snapped. "Someone tell me what that thing is." The guard closest to me swallowed hard. "We don't know what to call it. We only know what it's done." Outside, the gunfire stopped. Silence fell again. A new kind of silence. Not waiting. Not hunting. Approaching. Something heavy padded across the date. Slow, deliberate steps. Heading straight toward the house. The guards raised their rifles. My pulse climbed past reason. The steps reached the porch. Then, knock. 3 soft, deliberate raps on the wooden door. Like a guest asking to be let in. The guards inhaled sharply. The smaller one whispered, "Row said it doesn't do that. It's never done that." The knock came again. Then a voice, low, wrong, distorted, mimicked the captain's tone. "Open the door." My blood froze. The guards backed up. The thing outside laughed, a garbled, warbling sound like speech run backward through a broken machine. Then, the door handle turned. The metal handle twitched again, slowly, deliberately, like a finger testing the pulse of the house. The guards had their rifles raised, muzzles gleaming under the dying floodlights bleeding through the windows. Their faces were white with fear, but they didn't break position. They didn't dare. I pressed myself hard against the wall, praying the wood was thick enough to hide behind, even though deep down I knew nothing short of an armored vehicle could stop whatever stood outside. The handle froze. No movement, no sound. Just that awful, coiled quiet. Then it began to turn, smoothly, as if the door belonged to it. "Don't let it open," one guard barked. The other lunged, slamming his full weight against the door. The knob jerked, abruptly halted mid-turn. The thing outside growled, not loud, not bestial, just a low, vibrating hum that felt almost curious. Then it spoke again, this time in my voice. "Let me in, Elliot." My heart crawled into my throat. The guard stiffened. "Nope," one whispered. "Nope, absolutely not. It's learning fast." My voice, coming from outside, not close, standing right on the porch. Hearing yourself speak from the other side of a door is a special kind of horror you can't prepare for. It felt like someone had peeled open my skull, crawled inside, and stolen the sound of me. The guard pinned against the door shouted toward the other, "Shoot the hinges! Now!" The second guard angled his rifle downward. "On your go." But before he could fire, the door shuddered violently. Once, twice. Then it launched inward as if a truck had slammed into it. The guard brace against it was thrown back like a rag doll, crashing into a table and sending splinters cascading across the floor. His rifle skittered away. The doorway gaped open. And there, framed by the flickering porch lights, stood nothing. Empty air. But the boards creaked. Heavy steps moved. Invisible weight pressed into the wood grain. It cloaked. A guard ripped out. Before he could finish, something hit him so fast his body lifted clean off the ground and slammed into the far wall with a crunch. His rifle fired on impact, bullets chewing into the ceiling. The other guard scrambled, dragging me backward. "Stay behind me. Don't look for it. Trust your ears, not your eyes." But my eyes were glued to the doorway. And then I saw it. Not clearly, just a shimmer, a ripple, like heat haze bending light around a shape. An outline taller than any man, too thin in some places, too swollen in others, shifting like liquid held inside a skin that didn't quite fit. Its head tilted, the shimmer distorted, focusing on us. On me. The guard shoved me into the hallway. "Go! Move!" I bolted, stumbling over a broken chair. Behind me, the guard fired control bursts, each muzzle flash illuminating a fragment of warped air. The creature screamed. The sound was wrong, high and deep at the same time, vibrating the floorboards, rattling the windows, burrowing into my teeth. It wasn't a dying scream. It was a furious one. The guard grabbed my collar. "Downstairs." "I don't have a downstairs." He didn't respond. He yanked open a trapdoor I hadn't noticed before. Neither had I known it existed. Beneath it was a narrow flight of wooden steps descending into darkness. When did that? No time. "Go." We dropped into the black just as a house above us groaned, something heavy pounding across the floorboards like a giant searching for prey. The guard pulled the trapdoor shut. Total darkness swallowed us. I felt his hand clamp on my shoulder. "Stay still." My breathing was loud, too loud. I tried to quiet it, failed miserably. Above us, the creature stalked through the house. One step, then another, as if it could hear us, smell us, taste the fear bleeding off our skin. Then it paused, right above the trapdoor. The wood bowed under immense weight. Dust drifted from the ceiling, sprinkling my hair. My lungs froze. "It's listening," the guard whispered. "Don't move." The creature exhaled, a deep, guttural sound like when traveling through a hollow corpse. The boards creaked again as it shifted. Then another voice echoed through the house. "Ro, Elliot, you in there?" The creature moved instantly. Footsteps thundered toward the front of the house, fast enough to rattle the walls. Gunfire followed, loud, panicked, echoing through the ranch like a war breaking loose. The guard beside me muttered, Good, go after them." But his voice trembled. He didn't believe it would be enough. A minute passed, maybe two, maybe a lifetime. The gunfire faded, then stopped. We waited in the suffocating dark. Finally, the guard switched on a tiny, red-tinted flashlight. The basement, if you could call it that, was small, dusty, and filled with old farming tools hung neatly on the wall. A pickaxe, a rusted scythe, a row of chains. Why didn't I know this was here? I asked, breath trembling. Old ranch, lots of secrets under its skin. He met my eyes. This was your first mistake, buying this land. I swallowed, and the second, coming back. A crash erupted above us, something colossal slamming into a wall. The guard killed the light instantly. The house moaned in protest. Plaster rained down. Something screeched and tore through the living room like it was searching, destroying. Then silence. Again. And then footsteps descending the hallway. Slow, intentional, heading toward the trapdoor. The guard's hand closed over mine. He whispered so quietly I barely caught it. When it finds us, don't run. Don't scream. It hunts sound. It hunts movement. Just be still. The footsteps paused directly above us. A faint sniffing sound followed. Wet, hungry, curious, would stretch under its weight, groaning. Then the handle of the trapdoor moved. My heart stopped. The guard raised his pistol. Small, useless, desperate. If it comes down. He didn't finish. The trapdoor lifted an inch. Light spilled into the basement. A shadow leaned over the opening. Then a voice, Rose's voice, whispered down. Elliot, come upstairs. Quietly. The guard stiffened. That's not him. The voice repeated, perfectly mimicking the captain's cadence. Come upstairs. The creature waited, listening, knowing. The guard leaned close to me and whispered, if it gets that trapdoor fully open, it's already over. The trapdoor creaked again, slowly lifting. Then, a deafening explosion rocked the house. The trapdoor slammed shut. The creature shrieked, angry, wounded, enraged. The house shook with violent impacts as it scrambled away. Above us, a familiar voice yelled, Move! We don't have long. The guard exhaled. That's the real one. He kicked the trapdoor open. Rose stood above, blooded, bruised, but alive. Up! Now. It's coming back. My hand shook as I climbed. The house was in ruins. Walls cracked. Furniture overturned. Deep gouges cut through the wood like something with claws had dragged itself across every surface. Ro grabbed my arm. We're leaving. Where? I breathed. Anywhere but here. A distant roar echoed across the desert. Getting closer. Faster. Ro shoved me toward the door. Move! And behind us, the creature howled. Hunting. Hungry. And very, very close. We burst out of the house into the desert night. Dust and splintered wood trailing behind us like the wake of a sinking ship. The moon hung low, almost full, and painted the barren land in sharp silver. Shadows stretched across the sand and rocks, but the light did nothing to soothe me. It only revealed the endless expanse that could hide a monster waiting for us. Ro ran ahead, rifle held low but ready. The other guards flanked us, moving like shadows themselves, silent but deadly. My legs felt like lead, my lungs screaming for air I didn't have. Every step, every heartbeat, I could feel the creature's presence behind us, though the distance was impossible to measure in the darkness. Then the first sound hit, soft at first, a whisper of movement across gravel. I froze mid-step. Ro grabbed my arm. Don't stop. It's tracking you. Tracking me. I stumbled forward anyway. The desert stretched ahead, nothing but date, rocks, and the occasional skeletal bush. I couldn't help but glance back. Nothing visible, but the air itself felt wrong, vibrating, tense, like the desert had taken a deep breath and was holding it. A gunshot rang out behind us. The guard closest to the rear fired again and again. Sparks of light danced in the dark. But the creature didn't scream. It didn't cry. It didn't die. It just moved faster. Split. Ro yelled. Cover each other. Keep it distracted. The guards fanned out, shooting intermittently, forcing the monster to weave and pivot, buying us precious seconds. I ran blindly, following Ro's broad silhouette, dodging rocks and desert debris. My legs screamed, my chest burned. I had no idea where we were going, only that staying in one place meant death. We reached a wash, a dry riverbed carved deep into the earth, its walls tall enough to hide us for a moment. Rose shoved me behind a boulder. The guards took positions, rifles scanning every angle. Hey, Ro panted. We can hold it for a few minutes. Minutes that felt like lifetimes. I tried to catch my breath, but every inhale tasted like smoke and dust. Every exhale felt loud, like it could echo across the desert and announce our position. I glanced at the guards. They weren't human anymore. Or maybe they were, but fear had sharpened them into something beyond ordinary soldiers. We waited, and then it came. The sound of sand exploding, rock sliding. It moved differently here, fast, fluid, terrifying. Its howl pierced the night. And then a shadow moved along the top of the wash, impossible in shape, stretching and contracting like someone, or something, playing with gravity. The guards fired again. One of the soldiers screamed. Not in pain, but in recognition. The bullets ripped through the air and thumped into the desert around the creature. Sparks of displaced rock and dirt flew, but it was already gone. It wasn't visible. It was everywhere. Rose's face was set in stone. We need to move. Now. We scrambled out of the wash. Every step was a gamble. I could feel the air behind me tremble, like it was alive. Do you know what it is? I gasped. Ro didn't answer. His eyes never left the horizon. We ran. The desert stretched endlessly. The moon was our only witness. I could hear the guard shouting, giving me instructions, but the sounds were distant, almost dreamlike. Every step felt heavier than the last. I started tripping over rocks, catching myself just before I fell. Then something moved. Not ahead, not behind, beside me. I nearly screamed as a shimmering outline slithered along the side of the wash, impossibly fast, folding over itself, stretching out, then compressing. It mirrored my movements, predicting them. My stomach churned. Ro grabbed my arm. Don't look at it. Focus on the horizon. I swallowed my panic, looked straight ahead. My eyes locked on a faint glimmer, the edge of the highway. Civilization. Hope. We ran. The creature followed, not with steps, but with air pressure changes, vibrations, and that unholy sense of awareness. I could feel it bending the space around us. My mind screamed at me that this was unnatural, impossible. Yet every instinct told me it was real, and hungry. We reached a rise in the desert. From there, we could see the highway. The lights of an approaching truck glinted in the distance. Salvation, or something close to it. Ro yelled, "Wave! Wave! They can't miss us." I raised my hands, waving like a madman, but my eyes never left the shadows. The truck slowed. Its headlights scanned the desert floor, missing nothing. And then, a screech unlike anything I'd ever heard. The creature leapt from the darkness behind us. Faster than thought, faster than light. It struck the ground near Ro's feet and skidded forward, a living shadow ripping through the desert sand. The guards opened fire, but again, it passed through the bullets, passed through the fire like it was a ghost. I stumbled backward. The truck had stopped. The driver leaned out, confused, terrified. "Get in!" Ro shouted. I didn't hesitate. I leapt into the bed of the truck, clutching anything I could. Ro and the surviving guard followed. The truck took off, tires kicking up dust in a furious cloud. I leaned forward, watching the desert recede behind us, praying we had outrun it. But I knew we hadn't. A shadow flickered in the rearview mirror, a distortion of air, a ripple across the desert itself. It was there, waiting, watching, learning. The truck bounced over the rough road. I slammed my hands against the steel sides, trying to stop the tremors in my body. The guards fired again through the cab window at the shadows chasing us, but their bullets did nothing. I realized something terrifying. This creature didn't just attack. It studied. It calculated. It adapted. And somehow, it knew every weakness in us, every step, every breath, every heartbeat. The truck reached the highway, a long, straight ribbon of asphalt leading toward distant lights. Civilization, safety, and yet, I felt no relief. Not yet. Where does it go? I gasped to Ro. "Anywhere we do," he said grimly. It can't leave the desert entirely, but it doesn't need to. It's fast, faster than we can comprehend, and it's patient. The truck sped on, leaving the ranch and the nightmare behind, but the knowledge of what would seem remained etched in my mind. Something alive, something intelligent, something that had been hiding in the desert for decades, maybe centuries, and was only now revealing itself. And worst of all, I realized we had no plan, no safe house, no way to stop it, no answers, just a long highway stretching into night, and a monster that could follow the desert itself. And somewhere in that endless expanse, my ranch waited, my home, my trap, and it would never forgive me for leaving. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, asphalt gleaming under the headlights like a promise of safety. But inside the truck, there was no relief, only the thrum of the engine and the tense silence of people who knew the night held horrors they couldn't explain. Rose sat in the passenger seat, one hand gripping his rifle, the other resting on the dashboard. His face was hard, eyes scanning the darkness as if expecting the creature to appear out of thin air. Behind us, the guards huddled in the bed of the truck, trying to reload, calm their nerves, or do anything other than think about what had almost killed them. I clutched the sides of the cab, mind spinning. Ro, what the hell was that thing? My voice trembled. And why are you people armed like some kind of private army in the middle of nowhere? He didn't answer immediately. His jaw worked, and he exhaled slowly, like weighing how much I could handle. It's been here a long time, he finally said, before anyone settled this land, before the ranch existed in any legal sense. This desert, it hides things. Things? I asked, incredulous. Like what? Animals? Ghosts? Rose's gaze didn't waver from the darkness ahead. Worse. Something that doesn't belong in any category we have names for. Something intelligent. Something patient. Something that watches and waits. I swallowed hard. And the HOA? This is insane. I'm guards. Rifles. Roe exhaled through his nose. You didn't just buy a ranch, Elliot. You bought into a control perimeter. Desert Crest isn't just a community. It's a barrier. The HOA isn't about grass length or trash bins. We exist to protect the outside world from what lives inside this land. I laughed, a short, hollow sound. Protect the world? From what exactly? He finally turned to me, his eyes dark and serious. From the thing that just tried to kill us, and from countless others we've seen over the years. Creatures, shadows, aberrations, things that the desert hides because they don't want to be seen. And if we weren't here, he shook his head, then no one would ever see it coming until it was too late. I blinked, trying to absorb what he said. So the ranch, the HOA, you've been waging some kind of secret war. Roe nodded. Yes, and you just stepped into it. The thought hit me like a punch. Every step, every dollar, every decision I made had unknowingly placed me in the center of something I didn't understand. Something bigger than me. The truck jolted over a dip in the road. A guard called out, "I think it's following." I turned, heart racing, but Roe raised a hand. Not yet, but it will. And when it does, we need to be ready. I glanced back again at the black horizon, where the desert stretched endlessly. How do you even fight something like that? Roe's voice dropped, grim and low. You don't. Not directly. You survive. You observe. You understand its patterns. And if you're smart, you prepare the land. The land? I asked, confused. This ranch, he said, pointing vaguely toward the direction we fled, wasn't abandoned because the last owner wanted out. He disappeared because he underestimated what lived here. And that's why it's defended. Every house, every fence line, every patrol, we've been trying to maintain a balance. I swallowed hard. Balance? You mean containment? Yes, Roe admitted. Containment. Until someone like you buys property here, opens doors, lights fires, moves pieces on a board we've been trying to stabilize for decades. My stomach turned. I hadn't even known about the HOA's extended duties when I bought the place. I hadn't read any fine print that said, warning, may include armed conflict with unknown desert entities. Roe exhaled and shook his head. The last owner thought he could handle it. He couldn't. Neither could the people before him. Most never survived long enough to tell anyone. I shivered. And now, it's after me. Rose's hand tightened on his rifle. Not just you. Anyone on that land. Anyone who triggers its attention. It doesn't care about ownership, legality, or morality. It only cares about its territory. The wind kicked up sand, and I could feel the desert around us pulse like a living organism. The shadows along the roadside seemed too sharp, too purposeful. My chest tightened. I remembered the first night in the ranch. The silence, the armed guards, the lights, the first glimpses of movement in the dark. This is insane, I said, voice trembling. Why hasn't anyone done something about it? Why hasn't the government, military, scientists? Rose's expression was hard, haunted. They've tried, and failed, and disappeared. All Weiss, returned with nothing but stories no one believes. That's why we exist. We're not a traditional HOA. We're a containment team. Think of it as the first line of defense. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to make sense of it. So all this time, I thought I was buying a ranch for peace and solitude. Turns out I bought a battlefield, a research site, and a trap. Roe nodded grimly. Exactly. And now it's awake. And aware. I looked out the window at the dark desert. Somewhere out there, it was moving, studying us, calculating, learning, hunting. The thought made my stomach twist into knots. One of the guards in the back muttered, "We should have burned the place when we had the chance." Rose's eyes flared with controlled anger. You don't destroy containment lightly. The land, it has its own rules. Destroy it, and there's no telling where it spreads, or what it becomes. Then what's the plan? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Roe exhaled slowly. We regroup. At the safe house. Tomorrow, we'll return with supplies, more firepower, and a plan. Tonight, we survive. That's all we can do. I leaned back against the seat, heart hammering, mind racing. Survive? The word fell hollow. Outside, the desert stretched on endlessly. Miles of sand, rocks, and shadows. And somewhere in that vast blackness, the thing waited. Patient, intelligent, ready. I had no idea if I was prepared. No idea if anyone could be. And the ranch, my home, wasn't just a home anymore. It was a trap, a warning. And soon, it would call me back. The thought made me shiver. Rose's voice cut through the darkness. Elliot, listen. If you think about going back without understanding, without preparation, you won't make it. You'll be next. I swallowed, nodding, though my mind was already racing. I had to go back. I had to understand what this place really was. I had to know why the HOA had been ready to shoot anyone who stepped inside. And I had to face the creature in the desert, the one that wasn't just a predator, but a patient, intelligent force that could bend reality itself. The truck rumbled on, carrying us away from the ranch. But I knew deep down the desert wasn't done with me, and it would never be done. The desert keeps its secrets, and some secrets are hungry. The sun rose like a molten promise over the desert horizon, painting the sand in shades of fire and gold. But it brought no comfort, no relief. The memory of last night's terror lingered in every nerve, every heartbeat. Roe drove in grim silence, the engine rattling like the growl of something barely restrained. I sat in the passenger seat, scanning the desert that stretched endlessly on either side. Somewhere out there, beneath the shifting dunes and rocky outcrops, it waited, patient, intelligent, merciless. We can't stay away forever, I said, my voice tight. It's my ranch, my land, and it's alive. Roe didn't answer. He only kept his eyes on the road, knuckles white on the wheel. Finally, after miles of tense silence, he spoke. We return tonight. We can't fight it alone. You, me, the containment team, the guards, everyone. And even then, he trailed off, letting the weight of the unspoken sink in. Even then, we might not survive. That night, we reached the perimeter of the ranch under the cloak of darkness. The floodlights were back in place, flickering, casting long, jagged shadows across the sand. Armed guard patrolled methodically, every movement precise, rehearsed. Ro turned to me. Stay close. Follow my lead. Don't make a sound. Don't panic. And for God's sake, don't underestimate it. I nodded, swallowing my fear. My legs felt like lead, but I forced myself forward. Every step crunching in the sand was a reminder that this land wasn't just dirt and rock. It was a battlefield, a trap, and last night had been a warning. We reached the house first. The front door bore the scars of the creature's attack. Splintered wood, deep gouges, the remnants of the barricade that had kept it out. Ro raised a hand. Plan. I listened. The guards would create a perimeter around the house, covering all possible entry points. Ro, the most experienced, would draw it out, bait it into a controlled zone. And I was to stay near the center, inside the house, with limited movement, observing. Why me? I asked, panic rising. Ro's eyes hardened. Because it knows you now. It learns fast, and it will come for you first. We need to understand it. The first gunshot rang out, a warning, sharp and deliberate. The desert responded with silence. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then came a ripple in the shadows. The creature appeared on the edge of the floodlights. Not fully visible, but tall, fluid, almost surreal. Its shape shifted as it moved, bending reality in ways that made my stomach churn. It let out a low growl, scanning the perimeter, aware of every guard, every rifle, every heartbeat. And then its gaze found me. I froze. The guards opened fire. Bullets tore through the sand and air, hitting nothing. The creature moved like water, slipping through their assault, adapting instantly. Rose stepped forward. It's learning patterns. Watch and note everything. Don't run. I could hear the guard shouting orders, but the creature ignored them. Its focus was singular. Me. It lunged. Faster than thought. Faster than reaction. I stumbled back into the house. Ro and the guards followed, firing from windows, doors, any angle they could find. But the creature moved as if the bullets were nothing, liquid shadow, aware, precise, hungry. It paused in the doorway, tilting its form, studying us. Then it roared, a sound that shook the walls, the ground, even my bones. We fought, not like a normal battle, not with logic or strategy, but with improvisation, desperation, survival. Ro coordinated. The guards flanked. I observed, learning. Every move, every step, every sound mattered. The creature adapted instantly. It mimics emotions, avoided traps, tested weaknesses. It wasn't just hunting. It was playing a game we didn't understand. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed in a blur of darkness, sand, and gunfire. The house shook under its attacks. The desert echoed with its cries. But slowly, deliberately, we drove it toward the far edge of the property, toward the containment zone Ro had prepared. Now! Ro shouted. The guards triggered a series of explosives along the perimeter, controlled charges designed to trap, not kill. The creature roared, twisting, contorting, caught between sand, walls, and fire. It fought, but we held. And then Ro gave the final command. Elliot, you have to finish it. I froze. Finish what? The observation, the recording, the knowledge, everything. Watch it, learn it, remember it. Because if we survive, this ranch, this land, will always be yours to protect. I nodded, trembling. My hand shook as I lifted the camera Ro had handed me earlier, high-tech, thermal, motion-sensitive. I filmed every angle, every movement, every moment of its struggle. The creature twisted, shrieked, and then, almost theatrically, disappeared into the desert night. Gone. Not dead. Not captured. Gone. Silence followed. The guards lowered their rifles. Ro exhaled, slumping against a wall, blooded but alive. We survived, he muttered. For now. I shook. For now. What does that mean? It means, Ro said, looking at me with something between exhaustion and warning, that this land doesn't forget. That creature will return. And next time, it will know more. It will be smarter, faster, and it will come for anyone foolish enough to step into its territory. I swallowed, realizing that owning the ranch wasn't just a choice. It was a responsibility, a burden, a trap disguised as property. We stood in silence, listening to the desert settle, the wind whispering across sand dunes that had witnessed centuries of secrets. Somewhere out there, the creature watched, waited, adapted. I turned to Ro. What now? He met my gaze. We rebuild. We fortify. We study. And we survive. That's all anyone can do in Desert Crest. And as dawn broke over the horizon, painting the desert in blood red and gold, I understood something chilling. My ranch would never be mine in the way I thought. It was alive. It was dangerous. And it was patient. And so was I, now. Because if the desert had taught me anything, it was this: the world doesn't wait for the brave. It waits for the aware. I had survived. I had learned. And I would return. The ranch wasn't just property. It was a battlefield. And I was its keeper. The desert was patient. And so was I. The sun climbed higher, burning away the shadows for now. But in my mind, the darkness remained. Always.